staff. Good to see you guys again. Today is Monday, October the 12th, 2020. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I do call this meeting to order and declare that we have a quorum present. This evening, Mr. Mullinax will lead us in the pledges, and Mr. Rector will lead us in the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Let's pray. Lord, we come before you this evening as your humble servants, thanking you for all you have done and provided for us. Father, we pray for your grace and your mercy as we fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Lord, we pray for all those who have lost their lives through this pandemic and their families. We pray for our staff and our students that you will keep them safe. Father God, we'll keep our faith in you, knowing that you will bring us through this storm that we are facing right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Rector. Agenda item number 2 is public testimony. No one has signed up, so we'll move on. Agenda item number 3 are the district recognitions. Ms. Cook.
Good evening. We are here this evening to recognize our employees and Panthers of the Month, along with our principals that are here this evening, and it's so good to see them in the audience with us, as well as honoring HR, our HR department. Due to COVID, we have to do things differently, so we're doing it virtually, and so we have had our new PR specialist, Roland Rodriguez. He went out and we were able to recognize all of our recipients last week, and we have a video to show you. We did add a few departments for recognition this year. Try to keep it as short as possible. This one's a little longer than it will normally be, just due to the fact that we had the HR and principals also recognized in this. Hope you enjoy this little video as we recognize all the great work that our staff and students are doing.
Hello, Panther Nation. This is Kara Cook, your superintendent here at Aransas Pass ISD. This year, we're having to do many things different due to the pandemic crisis. And once again, we are looking at ways to try to bring some normalcy back into school. Each year we have district recognitions where we recognize employees at each campus and department as an employee of the month. And then we also have Panthers of the Month, which is a student from each campus. This year we will be doing it virtually. And if there was ever a year that we need to ensure that we celebrate with one another, it is now. So we are going to begin our recognition here at Falk Elementary by surprising our October Panther and Employee of the Month.
Ashley Sasson is our Employee of the Month. When we started this school year out, we started a brand new curriculum, pretty much learning online. Ms. Sasson has went out of her way to teach our staff how to use the different learning management systems that we had incorporated into our new lessons. She held lessons in her class so all the teachers would know how to use the programs. And we wanted to say thank you by making her Employee of the Month for all the hard work she did. Well, good morning, boys and girls. How is everybody? Good. We are here today to announce the Falk Panther of the Month. One of y'all is Panther of the Month. And it is Miss Aubrey Alejo. Come here, Aubrey. Give you a fist bump. Good job. Here you go, sweetie.
This is your thing. We always recognize our principals as it is slated as a time to show appreciation for principals in public education. We want to begin by recognizing our Falk Elementary principal, Mr. Jason Mansfield.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Mansfield has done a tremendous job here at Falk Elementary. This is where we house our pre-K through second grade students. These are our babies. This is our foundational years. And this year, more than ever, much thought had to be put into the logistics of how we bring our students back safely. Mr. Mansfield, along with his team, have done an amazing job to ensure the safety of all of their students while creating an environment that is still fun and engaging and where students want to be here with their teachers. So congratulations, Mr. Mansfield. It is an honor and a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Here we are at the Alternate Education Campus, where Principal Brian O'Brien has been serving for quite a few years. And we are here to celebrate with him as we recognize him during Principal's Month. Mr. O'Brien, I'm here today to recognize you as we celebrate 2020 Principal's Month. So here's your recognition. Mr. O'Brien has done a fantastic job here at our Alternate Education Campus. He enables students that need to have credit recovery to be able to access the content and get through and graduate. You can tell by the sparkle in his eye when he tells us that another student has graduated, that it is truly heartfelt. He cares about these kids, and it's shown in everything he does. So, Mr. O'Brien, we appreciate all that you do, and thank you for serving here at Aransas Pass ISD.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Cook. I really appreciate this honor.
This year, as part of our district recognition, we've added in a few different areas, and one is our Maintenance and Transportation Department. Here we are at the Maintenance and Transportation Building with Mr. Charlie Ochoa. He's our Maintenance and Transportation Director, and he will be sharing with us who our employees of the month are here for this department. Mr. Ochoa?
Thank you, Karen. All right. It is my honor and privilege to present the school bus transportation team of Steve and Linda Kozart as my choice for employees of the month. The Kozarts have been employed with the school district for 8 years and are currently my longest tenured transportation team. This honor is long past due. Steve's experienced professional driving skills and detailed attention to safety, and Linda's impeccable student management skills has made the horse route a very successful over the years. In addition, the willingness to cooperate and adapt during these challenging times is commendable. It is comforting to me that I can always rely on this team to take care of their business in an utmost professional manner. I sincerely thank you two for dedicated service to Aransas Pass ISD.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank you,
that.
thank you. Thank you.
We're at Aransas Pass High School where we are ready to celebrate with our Employee and Panther of the Month. Let's go see who they are. I'm here with Michelle Hell as the high school principal, and she's going to tell us about our Panther and Student of the Month here at the high school. Michelle?
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. We have Miss Coley as our Employee of the Month and Jeff Harris as our Student Panther of the Month. We are honored to celebrate them. I wanted to start off with Miss Coley and share one thing that one of our colleagues said about her. Jen always goes above and beyond to help anyone and everyone. She always has a smile on her face and brings a little sunshine in wherever she goes. So just one of the many reasons why we honor you today, Miss Coley, as our Employee of the Month. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Cook. Again, Miss Coley, congratulations as Employee of the Month.
Thank you, Ms. Howell. It's a privilege to work for the high school.
Thank you. And now let's introduce our Panther of the Month here at the high school. Our Panther of the Month at Aransas Pass High School is Jeff Harris. It was said of him that he has an excellent work ethic and a great attitude. Just one of the many reasons we've chosen Jeff Harris as Panther of the Month at Aransas Pass High School. Thank you, Mrs. Cook, and congratulations, Jeff, as Panther of the Month.
Thank you, Ms. Ham.
Ms. Hale, I'm here today because I would like to recognize you during Principals Month and just share with everyone the great work that you have done. You have started your second year here at Aransas Pass ISD as the high school principal. And I want everyone to know that you have done an amazing job. It's difficult enough to begin that step over into heading up the helm as a principal, but to do it in the midst of a pandemic is extra challenging. But Ms. Hale, you have met those challenges with grace and with the courage that it takes to be a mighty Panther. And it is evident by the way the school year has started off very well, how respected you are by your teachers and by the great job that's being done on this campus. So congratulations to you and thank you for being a mighty Panther.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. What a tremendous honor.
Thank you, Ms. Hale.
Now let's head to AC Blunt and do some celebrating on that campus.
We're here at AC Blunt, ready to recognize our Employee and Panther of the Month. Let's see who they are. Here I am with Mr. King. He is our middle school principal, and he's going to tell us who our Panther and Employee of the Month is.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Odyssey Sanchez has been selected as AC Blunt's Panther of the Month for being a diligent student with an outstanding disposition and a notable consideration for other students. Congratulations, Odyssey.
Thank you.
And AC Blunt Middle School teachers and staff have selected Ms. Joanne Fernandez as the Employee of the Month. Ms. Fernandez provides our ESL services, and this year has added the responsibility of facilitating our virtual Spanish classes, and she does it with a smile on her face and kindness in her heart. Congratulations, Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you. Mr. King, it's an honor for me to recognize you today, and thank you for all that you have done. Mr. King is a fantastic principal on this campus. He really takes time to put a lot of thought into everything that he does. When he doesn't know an answer, he goes out and he searches for it until he finds a solution. He has managed to create a fantastic team on this campus. There's cohesiveness. There are teachers that are aspiring to do things above and beyond, and I believe that that is attributed to his great leadership and his tenacity as we have walked through this very difficult time. So congratulations, Mr. King. It is an honor to work beside you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. King. And now we are off to Charlie Marshall to celebrate with our Employee and Panthers of the Month there. We're here at Charlie Marshall, ready to recognize our Employee and Panther of the Month. All right, we're here with the Charlie Marshall principal, Mr. Jeremy Sagert, and I'm going to hand this off to him so he can let us know who our recipients are.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. My pleasure to recognize one of our hardworking staff members and one of our hardworking students. And I'm going to start with Bree Cadle, one of our fifth graders. Step on over here, Bree. Bree entered into this very different year in an enthusiastic way, always striving to do her best and working hard. The most important thing about Bree is her willingness to give her time to others. She shows compassion to others and is always willing to help. It is for these qualities of hard work and service to others that we have nominated Bree Cadle from Mrs. Martin's homeroom as Panther of the Month for Charlie Marshall Elementary. Congratulations, Bree. And I'm going to give you that. Bree, thank you for being a wonderful student at Charlie Marshall Elementary. I'd like to at this time introduce our Employee of the Month for Charlie Marshall. Mrs. Holmes, would you like to come on over? Charlie Marshall Employee of the Month. Charlie Marshall Elementary is proud to recognize Jennifer Holmes as their Employee of the Month. Jennifer has been part of the CMES family for 3 years and chose education as her second career in life. It has been quite evident in her 3 years with us that she has made the right choice. Her growth mindset is evident in all that she does for children and APISD, especially during this extremely difficult school year. As we are continually adapting to meet the needs of students, Mrs. Holmes willingly offered to serve as our remaining fifth grade virtual home-based teacher when we asked for volunteers. She is committed, consistently putting her students before herself while learning to provide viable instruction via a virtual platform. Jennifer has also stepped out of her comfort zone, offering to train her peers and provide technology support to those in need. Charlie Marshall Elementary is honored to have Mrs. Jennifer Holmes as part of the CMES family. Congratulations, ma'am. Here is your certificate on behalf of the school board, and there is your Aransas Pass ISD card. Congratulations, Ms. Holmes. Thank you for all you do for students. Thank you, Mrs. Cook, for giving us the time to recognize a Charlie Marshall student and staff member.
It is my pleasure. Now I have one other recognition to do here at Charlie Marshall. We have been going from campus to campus celebrating Principals Month. And here we are with Jeremy Sager, the principal at this campus. And so I'd like to recognize him for his very hard work on this campus. As all principals have had to deal with this year, the ever-changing landscape of education, this is one of our principals that has definitely tried to grab hold of this and take charge of what's going on to ensure that his staff and his students are taken care of. He is one that is always trying to keep a positive attitude, looking for the best in situations, and he has created a culture here and a climate that is one of student excellence and everyone doing their very best. I appreciate all that he does, and I want to show my appreciation to you by giving you the certificate and a little memento and say we are so proud of you, proud to work alongside you. Thank you, Mr. Sager.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to work hard for these kids, and thank you for the support that you and the Board of Trustees offers all of us as we work to meet the needs of children.
We're here at the Food Service Department office, and we are going to be recognizing as the Employees of the Month for our district administration, our food service directors. They serve in a joint capacity and do a fantastic job. Ms. Socorro Montemayor and Cindy Mann have done a tremendous job beginning almost instantly as this pandemic started. Ladies, it is an honor to be here today to celebrate the hard work that you have put into your positions and your service to this community and to this district. So I am honored to bring to you today the recognition of being the Employees of the Month for our central office admin departments. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Very honored. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook.
Thank you.
Just thank you, Socorro and I appreciate everything we do. Working for Aransas Pass ISD, it's just been an honor, and everything we do is because of the students to make sure that they always get a hot and healthy meal every day.
We are now at the Human Resource Department, where we are celebrating Human Resource Day, which occurs on October 14th. And we have an amazing team here at Aransas Pass ISD. So Pam Bennett and Bertha Morales, we are excited to have you represent us in our HR department, and we congratulate you and thank you for your service. Pam? Thank you. Bertha?
Thank you.
There's a little memento.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all you do for this district. Thank you.
Thank you.
We enjoy it. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate you. So Panther Nation, that concludes our district recognitions for the month of October. We are so proud of all these individuals and the sacrifices and the commitment that they have made to this district and to the children and families that we serve. Everyone on our campuses and all of our departments is committed to Aransas Pass, and they do each day the very best job that they can. We appreciate you, our parents and our community members, for supporting us and encouraging us through this very difficult time. Our educators and our staff members, they have been put on the front lines now of a pandemic, and they have met the challenge. We still have much work to do and many obstacles before us, but I know that together we will overcome this and we will be better for it. So stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe, and go Panthers.
I will not be quitting my day job. Mr. Rodriguez put me in a very uncomfortable position doing all that. I thought we were just going to go out and just hand them their Jeff, he said, oh, no, that's not the way we're gonna do it. We're gonna do a production. So I do appreciate our principals. They did not realize what was coming either, but they handled it well. There were many takes, different shots for him to pull all that together. His first stop at this was over 30 minutes. And I said, oh no, we're gonna have to cut that down. And so, like I said, it was a little longer tonight than we really intended, but I think it was well deserved for our students and our staff to be recognized. We could go on and on about the great things that they have done.
A couple of things, Ms. Cook.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I think Jeremy said, stepping out of our comfort zone. You could tell, and believe me, I don't think you told them that was in their job description, right? Cameras and a microphone. You guys did a great job, and on behalf of the board, thank you for all you do. I mean, it's National Principals Month. We know you guys have a difficult job at leading out on your campuses. We appreciate the hard work you do and what you do for our students, so thank you. Back to the board.
Okay, would you like me to continue
Yes,
with the
ma'am.
superintendent's report? All right. Moving forward, the next part is the return to learn update, and we put it in sections, but I'm going to kind of just go through it because it all goes basically together. I gave you a lot of information this month, but I think it's important that as we start thinking toward making decisions about when to bring all of our students back, it's important to have all the data in front of us and consider it from all aspects. So the first thing I've given you was the APISD lab confirmed positive COVID-19 cases, and we continually will update this. With this, you'll see that this is information that is historical back from June 21st is where we started collecting this data. And you'll see that we have under staff members a total of 9 positive cases since June, and 1 student. And all of these none of these were contracted the virus on campuses. This all happened due to being somewhere else, family members or events or so forth. And most of these for staff were back during the summer. So we're very thankful for that. So we continue to monitor that, but that's a testimony to the great work that everyone is doing to try to follow our safety protocols and ensure safety on our campuses since we have been back. And please stop me at any point if you have questions,
What
otherwise.
we'll do is after every section, if anybody has any
Okay.
questions. Does anybody have any questions on the report?
Okay. At your place, I had put, as of today, Dr. Mobley's latest report for our area. I wanted to give you the latest one, and he gives one out on each Monday, and so I wanted you to have that this evening. That's why it's not in your board packet. And it shows how our cases are going, and basically the summation of all these graphs that you see is his report today was that we were holding steady. There was a slight uptick in the state of some cases, but he said in San Patricio County, we are holding steady. He puts it in all different types of Any questions on that?
I don't have any.
The next report that I provided for you was our home-based percentages. As we've started on October 5th, we began the second 6 weeks. And so we collected the data on this form to show you per grade level how many students are still choosing to be home-based. And you see how the percentages fall out. District-wide, 25% of our students are still choosing home-based, which therefore means we have 75% of our students back on our campuses. And you can kind of see how it falls out per grade level.
Anybody have any questions?
The next one is our first 6 weeks report looking at our failures. We all know that as we go through this time of doing something we've never done before, of having students that were virtually for so many weeks of our first 6 weeks, we needed to capture what that looks like academically while we're providing that safety for them, what's happening academically. And our fear is that as we move through the health crisis, we move into an educational crisis. So trying to keep tabs of how that's looking for us here in Aransas Pass. We know it's happening across our nation, but what does it look like for us? So looking at this for our first 6 weeks report, I tried to provide for you, and I appreciate the principals working so diligently to try to help pull this information, and Ms. Dominguez also. It's hard to pull these reports and get drilled down in so many different ways to look at it. But you'll see per grade level, the number of students that were failing one or more subjects, and then the percentage per grade level. And then I also wanted to look at the number of those students that were failing in the 6 weeks, how many still were going to be home-based, because that is important for us to know as we move forward and look at and make decisions. So you basically see that we have 293 students overall. This is not including pre-K or kinder due to the standards-based goal assessments. So I left them out of this one because we're still drilling down into those numbers. And I put here 18%, but that is incorrect. I had left kinder in my totals. It is actually 21%. So 21% of our students, first grade through 12th grade, are showing failing one or more subjects. And then you see out of those 293 students, there are 128 students that are still receiving instruction home-based. Once we saw at the progress report time that how many students were failing, which was a much higher percentage than this, so kudos to our teachers for trying to work with those students and continue to pull and contact and provide the support they needed and help them see that, that this was not the spring. I think some came into this thinking it was going to be more like the spring learning, that this was more rigorous, and so we had to try to get them over that hump. So our administrators really worked diligently to begin calling and along with the teachers, and we were able to pull a lot of the students back in. They helped them to see that that is not the correct placement for them once we opened our doors back up to get them back on our campuses so that they could receive the support that they need. I went back and looked at historically where our percentages fall on the first 6 weeks to do a comparison, and we normally are falling at about 13% of our students are failing one or more subjects at this time. So we're up to 21%, because that was a very legit question that was asked. Well, what does that mean? How do we compare that? So it is significantly higher, and we do believe there's multiple factors that play into that. But of course, I think we all know that there's no replacement for students being in a classroom, face-to-face with their teachers, receiving that instruction in that manner, and having that real-time support in the classroom. So all districts are really are struggling to continue to work through this format of learning to ensure our students receive what they need at this time. Any questions on that one? There's a lot that can be talked about there.
Well, I was looking at the 7th grade on up, and those are the kids that came back later. Is there some, the percentage seems like a lot higher between 7th grade and 12th grade, grade 1 through 6. And it just kind of, there's a couple of items, why? It just...
Well, and those are things that we're drilling down to find out what's happening. Of course, at middle school, you have middle school students are usually need more encouragement, you might say. I believe you taught at the middle school. You may remember that middle school tends to be the grade level that you need to get a little more prodding and encouragement. So I think that plays in part. Could be some of the longer time virtual versus being able to come into the campus. I know that I've talking with Mr. King, we talk a lot about the processes. Sometimes it's not the content so much or what the teachers are trying to put out there, but the processes of the making sure that once you finish the assignment that you hit the right button, that everything goes through, that you complete it completely. So I think there's many factors here, and that's what the principals are working with their teachers, and a lot of what they did today during the workday was to really drill down and look and think about what is going on and how do we continue to support the students through this time.
So the majority of students that were flunking the last 6 weeks, we were requiring those to come back on campus then?
They reached out to all of them to strongly encourage them to come back, and we haven't gone to the point to just totally mandate it at this point due to still the fear factors, but that's one of the big reasons to bring this to you tonight, for us to have this discussion, because we're really seeing a need to make some decisions about what will be mandatory, what we will allow, what we will not allow. It's a very difficult time in trying to balance between keeping everyone safe and helping everyone through this time of uncertainty. It's our staff that can be fearful, it's our parents, the students. So where is that balance to ensure that we do what we need to do as a public institution to educate the children while we're trying to provide that safe environment, and we do not add to the fear. And so that's kind of the point of bringing all this to you. So I'll kind of have a summation here in a moment of all of it as you consider this topic, because it's a very difficult decision to make about what should we do next to ensure that this failure rate decreases while we still keep everyone safe. And you'll see behind that the next several parts that I'm not going to go through in detail were the action plans. I asked each principal based off of, they started working on this at the progress report time. What is it you see are the issues, and you'll see in their plans of action how they're trying to address some of those issues that they feel like are happening. And we're constantly thinking, working, listening, and trying to figure out what the next thing is that we need to do to meet the needs of our students.
And I read that, and I'd like to commend Ms. Hell on her action plan, because it's very easy to read, because it's like step to step. You know, it's like, you know, what we're going to do here, what the teacher's going to do, what the students need to do. So it's kind of a step by step. So that was a different kind of format than the other, which I thought was really easy to read and understand. So I just want to commend you on that process, that format. So it's very, very good.
So as we look at all of this information, you know, we've been having many discussions about what should be our next steps, and I have done some more research since the board packet went out. We actually so I just want to do some summaries of some of the information and then get your input on what you see it from your perspective as we've been thinking about this from our perspective. So we're looking at, we've got over 20% of our students in 1st through 12th grade have failed one or more subjects for the first 6 weeks, with 2019 showing a 13%. We have 25% of our students are still home-based, and of those 25%, 33% of those that are home-based were part of that failing one or more subjects. So a third of our students still at home are part of the group that was failing. I've shown you how Dr. Mobley's San Patricio report shows our county cases are remaining stable. Since June 21st, we've only had 9 staff and 1 student lab confirmed cases, which is great news. I always hate to brag on that because I don't want to jinx us. We did do a staff survey this morning. I thought about it over the weekend. We've heard, the principals have been hearing a lot from their staff, and we've been communicating, talking to them, walking in classrooms, but I thought I wanted to make it more formal and get an actual number to bring to you tonight. So since it was a work day, I knew they'd have time to answer. So we had 127 responses at the time that I finally quit looking to come to the meeting. That put us 80%, which was 101 of our staff members, think we should bring them back even as early as November 16th, or that was just a date we put out. That's our next grading period cutoff. So that would probably, we were thinking that would be the earliest we would want to do something like that, and we'd want to have a clean cut somewhere, and that was the best place to do it. So we posed that question to them. 20%, which was 26 of our staff members, said no, but with it, they would say, but we'll do whatever you wish us to do. Some were pretty adamant about it, most of the reasons here were those that were most adamant was the fear of the virus, of course, but even with the yeses, there were many that would say things like, yes, this is the best thing for students. I know they need to come back, but I am fearful and I'm concerned. And the biggest concern overall, whether it was yes or no, was the concern about being able to maintain the social distancing, which we all know as administrators we have been struggling with, not just here but across the state. Our classes were not built to house the number of students we need to put in them at 6 feet apart so that one teacher can monitor them, teach them. Then if you try to take them and keep just the number that you need in a classroom, then move them to another classroom, then it becomes a personnel issue. Now you need to hire more personnel to be able to take care of those needs. So it is a hard dilemma that we face, and no one seems to have a good answer for how to do it. And we're constantly looking for ways to, masks, shields, dividers, what do we need to do? And then we're told by the health department, we had a meeting with them last week, that it doesn't matter even if you're within 6 feet of one another, even with a mask on, anyone that was within the 6 feet of one another, they all must be quarantined if they come in contact. So it was like, okay, then why are we forcing these kids to put a mask on, a shield on, put the divide, bless their hearts, they're just, there's so much going on while you're trying to learn. So we made that an option because once we were told by the health officials that it really didn't matter, we thought, well then if they feel more comfortable with it, then we want to provide that, and so we have. We want to keep the dividers up as much as possible where we have them, because we want to put as many barriers between each of them as to try to protect them. But we're trying to be reasonable about it too, because you can go so far to the other extreme that's all you're doing is just basically suiting up to go to school, but you're not getting anything done because the teachers are just, the kids can't think. So these are the issues that we're facing. But here we are now looking at these failure rates, looking at what we need to do academically, how to still provide the safety, and so what is the best decision. And I personally have struggled with this back and forth. I look at the failure rates, and when I look at them alone, I'm like, oh, we got to get these kids back. And then I listen to what the teachers' concerns are and just what I feel in my own heart, and I think, but then when we bring them back, how do we keep them separated? So it's just such a difficult decision. And so I reached out to the other superintendents to see in our region what they're looking at doing. Because I know we have some, like Mathis just recently, last week, their board decided that they're bringing them all back. There's no option, and we're pretty blunt about it. So I wanted to see what our area is doing. Aransas County and Ingleside both are haven't made any no one's made any definite plans in our area. I'll say that first. But Aransas County and Ingleside, as of this morning, they are looking at the beginning of the second semester that they would begin to consider ending the remote instruction, except for, of course, COVID related cases or quarantines or medical reasons. I think both of them stated that a lot of that was due to the fact entering the flu season, and there's still just too much fear out there. Gregory Portland, they are planning to offer face-to-face for the duration of the year or until TA no longer allows for it. They are going to be requiring students who are failing or not attending to the work, they are going to be requiring them to attend face-to-face, which is a way we've been moving, so they're going to be requiring it. I'm going to get with Dr. Cavazos and see how they're going to manage that. So get some ideas there. Port Aransas ISD, they're already at 97% campus space, so it pretty much took care of itself for them. Sinton ISD, he said that they are continuing to offer remote for the remainder of the year. So I was kind of surprised at some of the answers, but each community has a little different take on it. We're now at 75%, so it's time for us to think about what that will look like next for us. I think from looking at the teacher surveys, from talking to administrators, I would say that 100% of us believe that the students should be back on campus. But we have 80% of our teachers that are willing to take that leap now. 20% are still so nervous. It does for different reasons. They do not wish for us to do that yet, but our teachers are so amazing. They'll do what they need to do. It's a hard call. So I would love to have your input. It was brought to you tonight as a discussion item for the potential to look at. Should we jump this next 6 weeks, the third 6 weeks, go ahead and move forward based off of the data that we have, follow suit with some of the other districts, the two on either side of us, Aransas County, Ingleside, look at semester. I personally, I don't feel good about doing it the rest of the year. I think there has to be a point that we have to, and I think we're at 75%. Sinton's still sitting at 37% on campus, and they're hoping to move to 65%. So you have to really look at how your community's responding. So their community's responding a lot differently than ours is. So they have to make a different decision. So with that said, questions, comments, help?
You and I spoke earlier today on the phone when I called you to talk about this, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there is still a lot of fear with our parents, and I think when you look at the correlation, you talked about 20% of our teachers being fearful, and then you look at our student population of 1,600 and 25 are still at home. So I mean, within 5%, it's fairly close because of the fear. And even of the 80% of your teachers, they still have the fear. I think we all know it's evident that the best place for our kids is in the classroom. But it's that fear, and then having the social distancing and the flu season coming up, and then we look at a lot of her families that are closely associated in the communities and what our surrounding school districts are doing. Are we willing to step out there and being on the leading front, calling them back a little bit sooner? From my standpoint, with what they're considering and what we're seeing here, hearing the fear factor from teachers and our parents still staying home, it's hard to say that, well, let's wait to the end of the semester, knowing that they belong in the classroom, but balancing the fear that you're talking about. That's my biggest concern is what our community wants. We have 400 plus students that are still wanting to stay home. That's not a 5% or a 10% number. For me, it's still rather large, and for us to take that option away from them, personally, I'm not comfortable doing it right now with all the facts that we have. Where I sit.
Well, I kind of think maybe we should consider making it mandatory if they're flunking, because again, if we're flunking this, this is what, the second 6 weeks, and we're gonna go, so most, these kids are still flunking through a whole semester. It's gonna be hard for those guys to recover, even if you require them to come back for the second semester. We need to get them back, and the parents need to realize the fact that, if your kid's flunking, then you should have been doing something at home. As a parent, that's what I would have done. When I found out my kid was flunking, I would have done something to correct that at home to eliminate that problem, to make sure my kid was passing. So, my idea is what's best for the kids. And I think that, going along with that, we don't have to require them all back. But again, if you can't put the effort forth to pass the classes virtually, we need to get you back in the classroom so the teachers can spend more time with you, going over that material, reinforcing it so you can start passing. So that's just my own personal feeling.
So with my point of view, I'm kind of caught in the middle here. I know it'd be better for them to come back, but also for the fear of the parents that don't really want them to come back. I feel for them too, but also know that when the students is failing like that, it's best for them to come back, try to get the grade built up. But I'm still kind of caught in the middle whether to bring back all at once or not.
Anybody else?
I think the same thing too. If they're failing, we might need to require them to come back. That extra time for the teachers really can help them out.
Mr. Flores?
We're in some kind of shoes because I've had a couple of ladies come talk to me, and their problem is that they themselves haven't had the schooling to they really don't even understand what they're looking at, compared to the kids. And, no telling how many people here in Aransas are in the same shoes like that, and then the kids nowadays, they don't push forward. You got to push them forward. So it is like, I myself, like Mr. Richter and everyone else, it's like a hard deal, but the teachers are the one that's got to handle this. The teachers are the one that are going to be facing all these students. So if we're going to have even 20% of our teachers in fear, that ain't no good. I don't see that we need to put our teachers into a situation like this at this time. I saw the deal with something about November the 19th, bringing everybody back in. We're falling into I don't know how the Thanksgiving holiday is going to fall in. So if we bring them in at 19th, we're going to fall into that vacation time, the holiday time. So we need to figure something, and we don't need to bring them in the 19th and we're going to go into a holiday time. Maybe something after a holiday.
Well, the thinking there was that it was the beginning of the next grading period, and then if we did bring them back, then you'd have a week for the teachers and the administrators to kind of get used to that newness, and then you'd have time to breathe and then come back again. So there's pros and cons to that too. And I have to say that our secondary teachers especially, this has been very hard on them, that because they're teaching 2 platforms right now. So that was another reason to bring this to you tonight is and it was funny that a lot of our secondary teachers, they're just so good about doing what they do and just taking care of business. Even in the survey, I didn't hear them really fussing about it, but we know it's been very hard on them to take care of those that are online in that platform while they're doing those in the classroom. And then of course with us not having our devices that we're still waiting on, that just caused even more issues. We're hopeful that those are on a truck somewhere heading this way by the end of the month. So that will alleviate, I think, some things as we move forward. But I appreciate your input, and we're, as an admin team, we're going to continue to discuss this and try to do what's best for the students moving forward and for our staff, because I don't want to lose all of our teachers after this because they're burned out. And so it's a real tough call to make.
Yeah, I think what we heard from the board tonight is that, number one, we want our kids in the classroom. Number two, if they're especially failing, we want them back. We don't want the parents to have an option. You can't correct it or remediate it if they're not here. But at the same time, we don't want to take the option away from our parents until the beginning of the second semester, unless there's a lot more movement in the area. Is that pretty much summarize everybody else?
Yeah, I kind of concur with that. Just we can get those kids back that are flunking, but if the parents, if they're not flunking and they're doing well in their classes, and their parents want to keep them remote, then they can continue to do that until the parents feel safe to bring them back. But we need to get those kids back, especially looking at the failure rate, because it's the 8th grade, or really from junior high 6 up to high school. And over 1/3 of those kids remote are not passing those classes. So that's a big percentage, especially in the 12th grade. And if those kids continue to flunk to a semester, they won't graduate. So that's something we got to look at too. We got to think. To me, I'm thinking of the students and for their best interest. And that, so we need to get them back where we can do something with them to get them to pass in those classes so they can continue on with their lives after they get out of school, whatever career they want to go into, so.
So you're saying there's a percentage that are failing that are at home. That means we still have a percentage in school that is still failing.
Correct. Yeah, that,
So,
Well, and now that we have them back, that's what the teachers are working diligently on, to get those students caught up and get them where they need to be. And it's easier to do that with them in-house than it is at home.
right.
Yeah, and I think Ms. Cook alluded to earlier that historically in the past, that are it's like, to this point, maybe like 13% of the kids are flunking the classes that, they had in-class instruction. And so this is a big, it's a big jump from 16 to 33 or 35, like in the 8th grade, 48%. That's a big jump that shows up there. So that's going to be something those kids are not going to be able to overcome if we don't do something now to correct it.
Well, thank you so much for that input. Moving into enrollment, some good news here. In the midst of all this, enrollment does continue to increase. That's, I guess, good, bad, whichever way you're looking at it's good, but then where we put them. As of 10/2, we had 1625 for our district total, and our attendance was 96.2%, which is amazing.
I
When
think
they're
that's
having
those parents pushing those kids out the door.
well, and this was even doing those attendance tickets when we were doing it virtually. Even though we're not being held accountable for that right now, we have a grace period. This is excellent news and great job that our staff and our parents and students have done. I did give you did a little enrollment data dig, and wanted to give you an update that the total enrollment as of 10/8 had jumped to 1640. So we continue to increase. Our enrollment May 2020, when we ended school, was 1603. So the overall increase of this number of students puts us at a 2% increase. And I asked around actually I didn't ask, they started the conversation and I was just quiet so they wouldn't know they were coming here, but around us was, they are reporting a 3 to 8% decrease in enrollment. There was only one other district in our area that's seeing an increase at 1%, and we're at 2%. So I think that's exciting news. We've been waiting for that. Kind of, right in the middle of the pandemic, maybe make it a little more challenging, but that's some good news. You see the new students that enrolled are 237, and then we had our students that withdrew to go to homeschool out of state, other district schools, 138, and then we had 16 no-shows. And you see the steps that have been taken, and it was funny, on Friday I was talking to Ms. Hale, and we had 4 when we were talking, and I was talking to her about all the steps that they're taking, and what was amazing, when I'd speak to these principals, they'd say they knew them by name, they knew where they were when they left, their circumstances. I was just very impressed that they were so in tune with these kids, and you could tell they had been searching diligently for them. I hung up, and it wasn't 5 minutes later, Ms. Hale sends me an email and says, "Found one." So we were able to take that one off. So I applaud their efforts to keep up with our children, and even those that are leaving us, to find out where they are. So our no-shows due in this pandemic time could have been much worse, but thankfully and we continue to look for them.
Kara, real quick on the withdrawals. I don't recall ever seen a number that large one year, and I know COVID has changed everything. When we're tracing those students down in Peens and they check out and register in another school district, is there any type of questioning that's asking why they left the district? Is it because of employment, family situation?
I don't know that they drill down to that point. It's usually this, where are you being homeschooled, you're going to another district, another school. I do know that Ms. Genovese told me that we had quite a large group that did leave due to employment. It was one of our, I can't remember which plan it was, one of our smaller areas that had laid off quite a few, and they left the area. So I do know that. But I'm not aware, y'all don't ask to that detail, do you?
We get requests from other schools where they're going, and it's been, for us, it's been out of the area in multiple places, and it's been because of jobs.
So there's no way to trace in the system whether it's within the region or outside the region to see if somebody just made a local decision to go to another school district, or if it was for employment?
The Texas Records Exchange, we call it T-Rex system, just, it's from another school, so if they were going to GJM, a fourth grader, we would get the request from GJM and we would know, but I don't know if there's actually a report that T-Rex generates other than, registrars could keep track of where the requests are made. The ones I also heard leaving Charlie Marshall had been job related, and that's when the parent offers it, not us stupid, but hey, yeah, we're moving, lost a job, or gotta take a job somewhere else.
Sure.
Well, if the question you're asking, like for the other Texas school district, we know which school they went to. They can do some research and drill down to that. We just haven't drilled to that level. But if that's information you're wanting, we could work on that.
No, I was just curious because we have such an influx of families coming in, that if it is a transfer that's within our region, within 30 to 40 miles, is it because the school district is offering something that we're not, or exactly? How we can drill down to find out what's the reasoning for that transfer?
We had a plant completed, actually finished building their units and stuff. So, most of those are contractors that come in and help on a contracted basis. So once it gets to be, they open the plant, it's just the people that work in there, and the rest are contractors, so they move on. A lot of them will get to the one in Sinton because now that one's starting. There's different, they're gonna follow, a lot of these people just follow the job site. And they follow jobs.
That's all I have. Are you good?
Good. That's a lot.
Agenda item 4 are the financial reports. 4A is the accounts payable. Does anybody have any questions? 4B is the budget status and investment report. And just for public information, our current year-to-date budget is $15,446,647.21. And we have received $1,463,000 for 8.65% of our budget funds for the year. Our expenditures, we expended 8.13%, or $1,374,879. Our tax collection report. Our taxes levied, it looks like it's only reporting our delinquent taxes. Our delinquent tax row is $1,919,144. Adjusted, it's $119,14,422. Total outstanding, let me back up. Total taxes collected for these school years, $39,242, and the total outstanding is $1.875. Again, that's just for public information. One second while I scroll through. Next report is the bond finance projects report. As of September 30th, 2020, as we discussed last month at our school board meeting, the balance due on the elementary project is $295,043.08. Do we have an update on the punch list that we were working on? We could get this paid out.
Yes, sir. There's, I think, one item in the back of school, they posted meeting still, so we're going to get the them are out there fixing it, but pretty much all the other items that I know have been completed, so.
So then we'll be close to get this paid out.
Yes, sir, within a week, I would say.
On the new high school gym, that's been paid 100%. Nothing is owed on that balance. On the new concession stand, which is our last remaining project of the bond, the amount of the bond was $400,000. We're still working on that, and we'll hear later on this evening where we're on that update. So the total cash left from the bond was $2,296,922.98. That includes interest earned on the bond over the period, less the balance of due for the elementary school and the concession stand of $678,433. Will leave us an estimated available funds from the bond of $1,618,479.90. So if you're listening closely, you're probably asking, well, how can all the projects be completed and us have money left over? And the answer to that, just for public information, is we got, fortunately by the grace of God, to qualify for some grants that were out there that funded us for some of these projects that we completed during the bond, and we have that additional money left. So that's the bond finance report. Does anybody have any questions on that? Next item is 4E, which is a summary report on the FEMA projects. So as we all know, with the hurricane, all the FEMA targets that are out there and everything that people have been working with as a school district, we're the same way. We've worked through that process diligently through the superintendent's office and Ms. Stansberry through reimbursements. You're looking at $2,619,788. Total payments received to date for FEMA was $331,891, which leaves an estimated remaining FEMA reimbursement balance of $2,287,846.92. A breakdown of that is emergency protective measures of $555,428. The high school building for some work that we did there on the roof, $354,407.22. Work that was completed at the middle school, $256,920.92. Our baseball and softball fields, reimbursement of $183,488 on the baseball field, and the softball field of $166,152, and it's $166,152. The old bus barn that was across or next to bus transportation is a reimbursement of $324,768. And there's a jargon here of PAAP-DAAC, which I believe is an administrative reimbursement for our man hours and
Yes.
filling out all the FEMA applications, correct?
Yes.
Okay. They're going to pay us to do the paperwork, so we'll take it. $449,820. So as you can see there, that we have some FEMA funds there. Anybody have any questions? Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. 6A is to consider and approve the minutes of the September 14, 2020 regular board meeting. Does anybody have any corrections? If there are no corrections, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 14, 2020 regular board meeting?
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Molinak, a second by Mr. Flores. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. Next agenda item is number 7. It's our action agenda, is to consider and approve a budget amendment for tax return from San Patricio County Appraisal District. Ms. Cook?
If he has a question.
Okay.
Did you want to speak to it?
if they have a question, I'll be glad to answer.
So I believe that the memo that was included in the board book from the appraisal district was in previous years, there was a fee that was charged that should have been charged by Texas statute. Is that correct?
The appraisal district used to collect taxes for us up until 2007. These are fees and taxes that were collected in error, and they lost paperwork. They did not return it in a timely manner, so their last audit required them to return it. They found the information and returned the majority of it. What we're receiving is our portion that was paid on our behalf, and unable to find the owners of it, they're giving it back to the entities.
Okay. And then there was another amendment that's attached to that, is that correct, for COVID-related supplies?
Yes, with it being such a large amount and we cut so much out of the budget, we were amending the revenue side
Okay.
and the corresponding expense.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? If there are no questions, I have a motion to approve the budget amendment as provided by administration. I have a motion by Mr. Rector and a second by Mr. Flores. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. 7B is to consider and approve granting the superintendent and senior director of business and finance legal authority to apply for the coronavirus relief fund. There's a relief fund that's available for us to apply for, and we just need to give them the authority to do that in the form of a motion. Does anybody have any questions? I have a motion to approve the budget amendment as provided by administration. This motion made by, I'm sorry, what was last one? I have a motion to approve. I'm struggling here, one second. I have a wrong agenda.
7B.
Yeah. I want to make sure and read this right because it's got to coincide with what we're doing. We have a motion to approve authorizing the filing of the application to the Coronavirus Relief Fund, including all understandings and assurances contained therein, and directing and authorizing Superintendent Kara Cook and Senior Director of Business and Finance Cheryl Stansberry to act in accordance with the application and to provide such additional information as may be required.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Molinak, and a second. Second by Mr. Rector. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. Sorry for that. 7C is to consider and ratify the memorandum of understanding between Aransas Pass ISD and Citizens for Educational Excellence. I believe it's some information from this.
The next two items actually go hand in hand. The first is the MOU with Citizens for Educational Excellence, and then the second one would be an MOU between Rooted Alliance, Root Ed, and Citizens for Educational Excellence. Basically, they reached out to us last year going out for this grant as they considered providing this position. We're one of 3 districts that are recipients of this. They did all the heavy lifting, basically just called us, said we got it, we're going to hire somebody, bring them in. You see the background and purpose, basically designed to increase the number of students enrolling and succeeding in post-secondary education, which includes college, vocational training, apprenticeships, and military service. And so far, I asked Ms. Hale what she'd seen to this point, and already with this person that has been coming onto our campus, they've met one-on-one with 60% of our seniors, had a FAFSA night where 20 to 25 families attended. The next one is already set for October 15th, 5 to 6:30. The goals are to meet with 100% of the seniors in the month of October, which when you, just your 2 counselors, we couldn't do that with all the other things they have to do. 100% completion of the FAFSA by the end of October. Many have started, only 5 are completely done. They're working to increase scholarship recipients, which our counselors have already done an amazing job for the district our size, the number of scholarships we receive, so this is just going to enhance that, 'cause there's a lot of money left on the table every year that students just don't access because they don't know where to look or how to go after it, and increase our TSI completion and success. So this is quite a blessing and gift for our district to receive this, and it's already been moving along. I went ahead, so we didn't slow down the process. I talked to Mr. Galvan about going ahead, signing off on these, bringing them back to you for ratification. I think we felt pretty confident that you would see a great need in this, and it's actually costing us nothing except a little time for our counselors and Ms. Hale to provide any knowledge or access that they might need, but in the long run, that what we receive far outweighs what they've had to give.
It's an awesome gift. Anybody have any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the APISD and Citizens for Educational Excellence? I have a motion by Mr. Flores. I have a second. Second by Mr. Rector. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. 7D is to consider approve the memorandum of understanding between APISD and the Citizens to Educational Excellence. Ms. Cook?
This is just another piece of the same
Okay.
project.
Do we need to approve both of those then?
Yes, sir.
I think the reason why is because there's.
Rooted Ed is in
Rooted
the-
Alliance is on the second one, and it's not on the first one.
Yeah, the first one is our agreement between us and the Citizens of Excellence. The second one is basically bringing Root Ed, which is the, actually the one supplier of the grant, you might say, coming into what their part will be.
So a motion to approve the MOU for Root Ed Alliance and the Citizens to Educational Excellence and the APISD School District.
Make a motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Molinak. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Alvarado. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. I'm getting tongue-tied up here, sorry. It doesn't help when you lose your glasses and you can't see what you're reading. So bear with me. 7E is to consider and approve a class size waiver for grades kindergarten through 3rd. Ms. Cook.
In a normal year, this is something we try to avoid. That's something I'm very proud of this district and you as a board that have stood behind ensuring that we keep our class sizes lower. So it's not that the class sizes necessarily at this point have exceeded the 22-to-1 ratio within the building, but rather due to the virtual access. I try to provide a background spreadsheet, and I want to say thank you to Mr. Sagert for developing this spreadsheet, and then we took it and filled in the rest of the information. Thought it was a good way to show that. But you see the column has for each, you have each grade level, who the teachers are, and then for the first 6 weeks when we were having the instructional arrangement, which was showing who was the virtual teachers and who had the campus and what their numbers were. So you'll see in green the ones that were actually over the 22-to-1, but it was done virtually so that we could limit our class sizes. So we continued that through the second 6 weeks. You see we still do not have any classes that are over the 22-to-1 on campus. It is all through the virtual access. This was done at the elementary level so that at first it was 2 teachers, then we went to 1 teacher as more students came back. So 1 teacher is responsible for the virtual and the other teachers are responsible for those that are on campus. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that at secondary, which is causing some of the issues and the anxiety for our secondary teachers. But it works here, but it does cause our virtual teachers to have more than 22. We're still required by state law to go through and do a TEA waiver, and so that's what this is for. And we went ahead and gave you some projections of what it could look like if all students start coming on campus. And you see that at the third and fourth grade, we could have some classes that could exceed. And I'm doing some research to see if this waiver will cover that now, or I'll have to do another one. So I heard that TA is sending out some new attendance rules on campuses, students returning to campus, and what all of this is going to look like. So we're still learning as we go. But tonight, I would request that you approve this waiver so I can submit it so we can ensure that all of our funding continues to flow and that we have done our due diligence to ensure TA is aware of what classes are not meeting the guidelines.
Does anybody have any questions? If there are no questions, I have a motion to approve a class size waiver for grades kinder through third.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Rector. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Flores. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Next item is 7F, to consider and approve the 2020-21 appraisal calendar of appraisers.
And I'm sorry, I don't, when you said kinder through third, it actually is K through 4. So I apologize for that. I don't know what happened when we made, because it is K through 4. The waiver actually has that, but the wording in your, I don't know what we did, but I apologize, my mistake.
So I'm going to ask for a motion to correct our previously approved action item, and do I have a motion to consider and approve a class waiver for grades kinder through 4th?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Mullinack, a second by Mr. Flores. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you for catching that. Next item is to consider and approve the 2020-21 appraiser calendar. We do have a couple of new trustees, so you just want to, I mean, it's routine, but if you just want to give a brief explanation just so they'll have.
Okay. You're required by policy for us to have a evaluation system in place. You can develop one in-house, or you can use what's called the T-test. Don't get me to tell you what it means, it Texas something, but it's our evaluation instrument that we use. All of our principals and APs have been trained in using this evaluation tool, and we've used it for many years. We normally bring this to you a little earlier, but due to COVID, some things got put to the side, and this was not something we felt like was as important as some of the other major issues we had. So this is our new appraisal calendar, where we have our orientations. The principals meet with the staff members for goal setting. They will meet with all staff members to hold those goal setting meetings. With our coaching that we have coming in with Engage to Learn, they've already been setting their goals and being coached. So a lot has already been done. We just haven't been following a appraisal calendar. So we're ready now to try to move into that. It was one of those things where you have to decide, kind of choose your battles at the beginning, and it was a little tough. We need to concentrate on a few other things. So the principals have already started having their goal setting meetings, documenting this. And then if you'll recall, I believe it was last year, we asked you to change the policy so that we have our teachers that are not on a probationary contract, are new to the district, that they're on a 3-year rotation for actual observation. As far as a formal observation, the principals still go in and do walkthroughs and do coaching and feedback, but that formal observation time is on a 3-year rotation. So a third of their teachers will still receive the official observations, and then everyone will have a summative evaluation and conference at the end. So this is our calendar, and then we even have a process and procedures flow chart to kind of show how that works. I want to thank Ms. Dominguez and Ms. Blaze for working so hard. Blaze took the information from Ms. Dominguez and made this nice flow chart, and all this looks so nice, so it kind of helped us stay focused on what we're trying to do. This is a big undertaking. It's another piece on top of everything else that the principals and APs are doing, so I commend them for making this happen. But what this really in a nutshell is about coming up alongside our teachers and being there for them, to have good coaching conversations and encourage them as they continue to do handle one of the most difficult years that they've ever faced as educators.
Anybody have any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the 2020-21 appraiser calendar, appraisers and procedures as recommended by administration?
So moved. Just pick one.
I think you won that one. Motion by Mr. Rector and a second by Mr. Molinak. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. Next item is 7G, is to consider and approve the schematic design of the sports complex improvements and moving into the construction document phase. Before I turn this over to Ms. Cook for her overview, I just want to say that this process started last February or March, or actually started when the bond passed, but this is the last phase, was the last phase of the bond project, which was the concession stand. A committee was appointed early part of spring to meet and discuss the concession stand and a few other projects. We were fortunate enough to meet one time, and then COVID hit, and it just put a stop. We were band-aiding everything, so there were more important things for administration to be spending their time on. During the course of that time, there was some discussion at a board meeting about, before we move forward with any future projects, to look at a master plan drainage, because we had some drainage issues in that area, and new construction would probably add to those drainage issues. So we got with Todd. I believe we reached out to Michael York with Urban Engineering to look at a drainage plan. We got that information back. We took it back to the committee. The committee looked at some projects as far as a master plan for this area of what we could do in addition to the concession stand. We looked at the parking lot area behind the stadium. We looked at the baseball and softball fields, with knowing the FEMA money was coming in, and trying to create a master plan for the whole sports complex. So that's kind of where we're at. The committee's received all the information back for some of the ideas that we talked about with estimated dollar amounts. Have one big comprehensive plan listing everything, and then have a secondary one which is a little bit less expensive, taking out a few of those improvements. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Cook and let her do her thing.
Okay, so yes, this has been quite an adventure, just trying to go through and try to pull as much information together as we could to bring to you tonight, so that we could begin this process.
Ms. Cook,
So,
real
yes.
quick. Blaze, if you can do me a favor, as she's touching on each one of those, can you open those up for us? Thank you.
So we're going to begin with the project schedule that was provided by Todd. I asked him to look at, with the end in mind. When we do academic planning, we always look at where we're trying to get our students, and so we want to do the same thing here, so that we would have some timelines. These are pretty aggressive timelines, but it's just a projected schedule that we could, and so far we're right on target. The first part was the schematic design phase to bring back to you tonight, and the team has worked together to pull a lot of information for your consideration tonight and discussion. And then if you so choose at the end of this discussion and wish to approve whatever schematic design pieces you would like us to kind of give us some direction so that we know the next part to move into the construction document phase. And then this is where they've already started some of that, just some preliminary things, just kind of playing around with some of the things to kind of help it move us along. You may say, well, why such an aggressive schedule? Todd has shared with us that, as you are aware, that with the elections coming up, a lot of our schools in the area have bonds on the ballot. And so if they pass their bonds, then they will be going out for bid for their project. So the sooner we can get out, the better deals we will get. Once that starts occurring, we'll get lost in the flow, and you know what happens with supply and demand. Right now, the contractors are probably a little more hungry, but they won't be after the first of the year when all these, these bonds pass. So with that in mind, we've tried to work quickly but carefully, and we of course don't want to move too quickly because we want to get this right, because once it's built, it's there. But so much discussion had happened way before we started even at this time. Then once we got in the construction document phase, if everything works and we feel good about it, we would bring it back to you at the next board meeting for presentation. And then at that point, you would be moving towards giving approval to move into the bidding phase. Bidding phase, then you see the dates for all of that. With construction administration to begin after the first of the year with an 8-month project time estimated, with possible construction completion August 1st of next year. And I don't know about you personally, but I'm praying 2021 is going to be our year. We're going to have great enrollment. We're going to finish up a construction project with no problems, and we're going to start a school year rocking and rolling. So that's my goal, and I'm hoping this plays right into that. So that's the schedule. Any questions on that? And like I said, that is a projected schedule. It can change accordingly to ensure that we meet the needs of what you need to make the best decisions. The next the next pages you'll see first is option A. We gave you an option A and option B. This is basically a menu style because there's so much you can do with this project. So, you know, what do they say? Dream it to achieve it. So we're dreaming it. Now we just need to see what part of this we can achieve. Option A, I appreciate all the hard work Todd has done because we kept adding to option A. We're like, well, while we're dreaming, let's just add it. So you will see in it, it's got the contingency allowances, the general conditions, it's got the fees. We want to make sure all of our fees are included in this projection. And at the top, you'll see there a total estimated cost for everything in option A. This is definitely the, you know, everything that we could think of. $3.7 million for this option. And then it's broken down by the girls' softball stadium, the boys' baseball stadium, and then you have so you have all those different parts, the materials, the concrete. We put in here press boxes with elevated bleachers. This is new fencing all around the main field, curb for potential turfing that might come later. The discussion was that if you can afford it, go ahead and put that. That way it's set and ready and it doesn't cost you more later. So we try to think about the future instead of piecemealing. We went ahead and looked at bleacher canopies for the center, canopy over batting cages, and a sound system. Anything that looked like it could need something, we put it in here. Same thing for the baseball stadium. And you see each of those are broken out by individual cost as well as a totality for each of the areas. The drainage improvements, this is the civil drainage design that Mr. York brought to us. And that is, this is with the box culverts. I believe they're looking at some options to do that could be potentially a little less, and that could be part of the construction phase. Using something besides the box culverts. I think they were called
different diameter concrete culverts that
maybe a concrete culvert, but that'd be start of the construction phase. So we want to ensure we get the drainage piece correct. That's like your foundation, and we want to do that right so that all this nice that's going to sit on top of everything, that it's not flooded during our rains. You have the concession restroom building. This is where the project really began, was looking at having a new concession stand that would service the football, the baseball, and the softball centrally located. So this is kind of the heart of the situation, but now we have expanded out, trying to create a whole sports complex look. With that is a nice ticket booth entrance. And there's a lot of concrete in this that will look very nice and very clean. And we're going to show you a rendition here momentarily. You have then looking at the parking lot pavement. This is for with the county working with us to do the labor for us. Then this is adding in the asphalt that's to extend the parking in that grassy area to give us more parking, and then to come back and seal coat that, and the existing pavement would be, I think they called it pressed. Was it pressed? They go over the current asphalt.
They'll seal coat it.
They'll seal coat it. They press it and then they seal coat it, so it'll look nice, all clean. Instead of you've got old and new. And then of course some lighting over the new areas that would, the new parking area. Then we've added in here perimeter fencing around all of this, and you'll see this in a diagram in a moment, around everything to enclose the entire complex. And then remove some of the old fencing and even put up new fencing around the football field. So that it's all clean and you don't see old fence and new fence. And then, of course, we have the maintenance building that is sitting out there that is going to be an eyesore in the midst of all this nice new stuff. So the conversation was, what could we do with that? So while we're dreaming big, we continue to dream, and we put, let's renovate that. And with the R panel replacement, a new door, make it look nice, and this would become the athletic storage, thank you, storage area. So any of those Connex boxes we have out there, we can get rid of all that, and they have a good place to store their items. The plan we've discussed before was with some of the FEMA money, the old bus barn. We were going to use it, and it could become a part of this project bidding out if you so choose. We would put it at the north end of the field where the current concession stand is. It would be there, and that's where we would store all of our maintenance supplies and tractors and so forth to keep everything looking nice. So they wouldn't be losing a place. They would use the old bus barn would become the maintenance at the north end of the field, and this maintenance building would be used for the I keep losing my train of thought, for the athletic storage. I don't know what's so hard about that. Now you're rubbing off on me, Mr. Calvin.
Yeah.
So that is, like I said, that's what you can get for $3.7 million. And then option B is basically the same thing, but I'm going to share with you what is not in that option B that brought it down to 3.1. So when we were looking at it, we thought, okay, what could we potentially, from the committee standpoint, say, well, that would be nice, but maybe not have those things. And basically, under girls softball stadium, it's the 6-foot-high fencing main field for $23,400, the 6x12 fence curb for turf at $7,800, the bleacher canopies, the canopy over the batting cage, and the sound system, the $21,000, $58,000, and $8,000. Everybody kind of see that where I was? So just in case you were wanting to kind of know, well, what are we giving up? Because here, what we said, we just did option A, option B, but now you can come up with option C as a intermingling of both of these. Boys baseball stadium, same thing. It's the fencing of the main field, that's that $36,900. The fence curb for turf, $12,300, and then those last three items: the bleacher canopy, the canopy over batting cage, and the sound system. The drainage, concession restroom all stayed the same. The ticket booth, number 5, stayed the same. 6, parking lot. And then the next cuts for option B were the perimeter fencing, the 6-foot high fencing around the main field for $119,700. And then everything, for the maintenance building, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this earlier, the maintenance building was the R panel replacement, and then the water for irrigation, the black container that's out there that's not very pretty. We talked to Todd about what could we do with that, because to move it would be very costly. And so he talked to us about a galvanized cistern that could be, you may have seen these in some of the old downtown areas and different places. And I think we have a picture of it here in a moment, or I may put it in your packet too. But just trying to take that and turn it into kind of a little focal point that looks nice, but that is at a cost of $6,500. So we did remove that in option B. So with those things removed, and I think I got them all, Todd, did I miss any? I tried to go through very carefully.
You got it.
So that brings us down to $3.1 million.
So that's a great overview. So
Would you like to see the rendering of it?
Yeah, we'll do that in a minute. I want to kind of
Okay.
take this in phases just to make sure everybody understands, because there's a lot of moving pieces here. Thanks for that overview, Sue.
You're welcome.
As we move forward since 2017, I think it's real important, for the public to reflect that, the hurricane was hard for us. We keep saying that over and over again, but we persevered and we got through it. But there's been some blessings from it since then, financially. And I know the district has been great stewards of taxpayer money. We worked hard, we worked diligently, we got our insurance claim. I can tell you there's other districts in the area within 45 miles that sustained damage that a year and a half after the hurricane, their gyms were still tore up. They were having to travel to other gyms in other towns and use their facilities. We didn't have that problem here. We moved quickly. We were able to get back into our classrooms temporarily while the main construction got completed. So we minimized our downtime. And I believe, Sherry, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, our insurance claim was around $20 million, $19 million.
Yes.
Less our deductible. So I mean, there's $20 million of improvements that, even though it was difficult for us to experience and live through, $20 million of facility improvements that an annual budget could not have paid for. New roofs, new paints in the buildings, new floors. A lot of the cabinetry was totally replaced to AC blunt. I mean, I can just go on and on and on. But that's $20 million in improvements that were done to the district. On top of that, we were right in the middle of the bond. The taxpayers had approved a $17 million bond with a new elementary, a new high school gym, the concession stand, and $2 million for other projects that we completed during that time period, on top of the hurricane improvements. So I mean, now you're looking at $37 million in improvements to our facilities. We were fortunate enough to qualify for these FEMA funds that we talked about earlier on the bond projects report, that we have money available to us. So the whole reason for me to make sure that we're stating this is that the public understands that we're able to make these improvements at no additional cost to them. I mean, I've been on this board 20 years. David, you've been here 28.
29th right here.
There's a lot of longevity here with some of our board members that we know as we've traveled down this road. These have been things that we've envisioned and wanted to do for our students and our community, but financially we haven't been able to. It's hard when you're an elected official and your constituents come up to you and say, hey, Sit ISD has this great sports complex. How come we can't have that? TAP ISD built this brand new concession stand. Why can't we have that? And you look at them and you try to explain to them, but it's not always easy because you want that for your kids, but financially you can't afford it. We're at a point now where I don't think we'll ever be again to complete a sports complex project to the depth that we can and it not be at a tax increase to the taxpayer. But I want you guys to understand where the money's coming from. And one of the big pieces is the FEMA piece, and I've had the opportunity to visit with Cheryl over the last year to try to understand where it's coming from, and I'm gonna ask her to come up and explain the process that she's gone through from FEMA, from the application side to the, I believe they're using the word, is it designated or allocated funds, Cheryl?
Obligated.
Obligated. So she's gonna talk you through all that so you guys can understand where the FEMA money's coming from, where we're at in that process, when we're gonna collect it, and what money's available for us to pay for this project, and then we'll look at the pretty pictures. Cheryl, if you can just kind of give an overview like you and I talked about earlier today. Put you on the spot.
It's so detailed and so many details that there's no way I could stand here all night.
Just a
So
quick overview.
basically, what FEMA does is they come in and assess your damages that were already assessed by your insurance company, and they build projects. They built 21 projects for us. And through all the process over the last 3 years, what they've done is they go through every invoice and estimate a cost to try to justify what the insurance said that they will pay for what the reconstruction costs. And they have their own process, they have their own formulas, and what they do is they input all the information from the construction and repairs into their cost platform, and they generate a cost for each project. And with the 21 projects that they gave us, after they review for 2 years, they've been reviewing, they obligate a certain amount for each project. Once our funds are obligated, basically what the whole purpose of FEMA is to not duplicate funds. If the insurance company paid us, say, 19 million, but the whole cost was 25 million, FEMA would pay you the difference of what it actually cost and what the insurance company paid. And in our case, it's actually more than what our deductible was. And in the beginning, that's all we were really wanting, is if we could just recoup our deductible, which was $1.3 million. But when they've been doing their cost estimates, some of their costs were actually estimated to be higher than what we actually had to pay. I'm not sure I'm not going to bore you with every little penny because it's a very big spreadsheet. The summary page that was in your board packet, the summary of FEMA projects report, basically,
Just real quick, if you go back to the agenda item for the financial reports and go under bond update, you click on there, you'll see the summary reports you're referring to.
the total eligible FEMA reimbursements that we were looking at were $2.6 million. We've already received $331,000. Last year, it was a little over 100. And our auditors, what we do with that money when we receive it, it goes directly back into fund balance. This year, we've received around $200,000 that we will be putting back into fund balance, which leaves the 7 remaining projects that are in the middle of the page. Your emergency protective measures, that's what happens the first month after a storm. It stops any further damage from happening. It's where they come in and vacuum the water out and dry out your buildings and put in temporary repairs to stop any further damage from happening. And the high school building, all these amounts here is what the difference of what their cost estimate was and what we actually had the insurance to pay. So with that being said, with these projects here, the total estimated reimbursement that was still eligible to receive is the $2.2 million. don't know what other kind of questions you
No,
want.
but I think the 2.2, and I'm not looking at it right now, but there was a deduction for one that already been paid for the bus barn. So
Okay.
I think the report was 1.963078.
Yes, and I cut that out, I'm sorry. The
Okay.
old bus barn, the reason that's been deducted is because that money, we will only receive it if we rebuild the bus barn, the old bus barn. And we're in negotiations with FEMA now for them to approve us to move it from the original location and repurpose it to be a storage facility, which that's what it was being used for originally when it collapsed. And that's just a formality. But the $1.9 million, I spoke with my new rep today, and I asked her, how firm are these numbers? Is there any chance that when you start dissecting them and looking at them again, are these going to change? And I stopped. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. The process with FEMA is once they do all this work and obligate the money to you, then they send it to the state of Texas, to the Texas Department of Emergency Management, and they call it TDM. They have a whole crew of people, just like FEMA, that are now going through every step that FEMA went through to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and make sure that nothing was left out or overlooked. And so it's not a gotcha. I was worried that is it because you don't trust FEMA? No, it's just a second set of eyes is always best. I asked her what the final date is. Is there a date then you're going to just stop processing these claims? And she said, no, this money is obligated to you. And however long it takes, whether you have to file extensions, however long it takes, we will be processing these dollars. So it could take anywhere from August, from this past year, maybe another year. I don't think it's going to happen that far away. That was my main concern, is because we're counting on this $1.9 million to help you decide which option that you would like. So after speaking with her, I feel confident that the 1.9 is going to happen. She said the only thing that would stop this is if we receive more insurance money, and which we've received all we're going to receive, so I don't see that happening.
Well, also, one of the things that we talked about was as they're walking you through this process, that when it gets to the point where it's ready for funds to be requested,
Yes.
that there's a process for that. They tell you when to submit your request.
Yes, and
When we submitted the request for 2 of the projects.
actually, there's been 3 that we've requested the funds, and we've already closed out. And I can give you all a list of all those small projects that we've received the money, because out of 21, these 7 are remaining. These are the large projects.
But the larger ones that you requested that we talked about is the high school and...
The high school and the Blunt those have been requested. I requested, I'm sorry, I have not requested. I requested the forms, and they're sending those to me. But all the other forms that have to be filled out before that are in place. The emergency protective measures, that has been requested, and it's in the final stages of review. And what I also want to say is the PAP-DAC, that only gets considered after all the other projects have been finalized and that they've already paid us on. And once that is done, then the PAP-DAC, we can request those forms and get our funding. In fact, she told me today she was sending me the form for PAP-DAC and for me to go ahead and fill that out so they would have it. She's going to try to help me push this through.
Does anybody have any questions on the FEMA fees? And then again, I want to make sure everybody understands this is how it gets paid, this is what we're looking at, this is the amount that's available towards whatever we decide as a schematic plan. So now if you can touch on the bond piece that's left. We talked about on your bond report, it's the interest and the amount that's left in the total bond picture was 1,618,479.
Yes.
The report showed. So between the FEMA money that's been obligated and the bond balance, you're looking at $3,581,558. So about 3.5 million of the 3.7. That kind of takes you, walks you through the money that's available from the bond and FEMA. Anybody have any questions on those two pieces? Ms. Cook, you want to show us the three pictures now?
This is the latest rendition that was sent to us. I just wanted you to look at it and then it'll go. Here's what the, kind of what the black water tank would look like. In your board package, you had also the layout where the fencing is, probably under, down, it's not the render, it's the, probably the overall site plan. Overall site plan, and this shows the fencing, the,
Yeah, so if you look where the baseball field is, which would be the left-hand corner of the field, you'll see that line coming down Victory Lane, and then what's the road that runs in front of Charlie Marshall? That's McMullen. That's a fence line going down McMullen, all the way back towards the high school, right about where the pond is, and then going north back to the gym. When the committee had their discussion with when we met with administration as a committee, one of the conversations that we had was a lot of campuses are closing in because of what's been experienced with all the craziness, trying to protect our students, that has always been open. With the format that we looked at with the concession stand was on either side having, did we talk about having ticket booths or using the main ticket booth at the parking lot for baseball and stuff? The main ticket booth, having gates there where they would actually have to come in through the football stadium in order to get into baseball and softball. But if we left the south side open, anybody from that street side could come into the facility. So that's what that red line goes around the perimeter and my thought with the fencing for that.
And then the gray, you'll see that a lot of that, all that gray is new sidewalks. And then the main part down here that's curving around where the fields are at this end, that's where those box culverts would be underneath. So it's taking the drainage piece and then aesthetically making it look nice so that you build sidewalks over that.
Does anybody have any questions on the different plans, the A and B?
Is that concession stand gonna have entrances on both sides of it? I mean, bathrooms? Not the restrooms, you see, the football field has entrance to go into the bathrooms, come out of the backside for the baseball field, they gotta walk around.
Now, the entrances are on the, if you have that plan on the side, show that.
There's a plan.
On both sides.
Yes, they're on the ends. We have that too. That was in your, you probably see it better in your board packet. We'll try to show it to you here. That'd be the,
Second to last.
oops, that's wrong. Todd, do you want to speak to this?
Right, so-
Because it's very detailed.
It's pretty detailed, so
We
the
mapped
north-
that here so they can hear you.
Okay. Yes, the north side is the football field is on the north side. On the south side are the ball fields, the softball and baseball. So between them, we put the girls or men and women's restrooms. So the men's restrooms on the left-hand side, and the entrance, you can see the doorway. And what we did is so we give them access from the ball fields. If it's a football game, we've got the fencing so it'll block off the baseball and softball fields. If you've got softball and baseball, then you can block off with sliding gates.
Here's your little.
Okay. Okay, so the sliding gates will come in here. We've got a 10-foot wall here. So we've got 10-foot gates that can slide and gate off this from the football field. If you have baseball and softball on either side, so your entrance, your concession stand for the baseball and softball is here. And then the restrooms, you come in here for the women's, the men are on the opposite end, and then you have a family restroom, right, kind of connected. But it's also accessible from the football field, visitor or the home side. And then the concession area is here. That's the larger concession area for the football field. So basically, your fencing will do your dual purpose. So you utilize it for both. And then primarily you'll be using for the football, you use this concession. You could open it all up and, you could open it all up if you wanted to have both concessions open, but the option is that you can create some security with the 6-foot fencing. And we were doing a vinyl clad, like a dark bronze fence, so it's not the fence that's gonna rust away quickly, it's gonna be coated fence.
Anybody have any questions on that design? Anybody have any questions about the two options? Anybody have any questions about where the money's coming from? Explain it, Will. I'm going to be redundant here and just state that this is something that we've been looking at for years. The process that we're following now is just to approve the schematic design, which allows Todd to go back and do some more detailed blueprints for the plan. depending on which one that the board wants to choose. At that point, he would bring that back to us. And that scheduled meetings that she talked about at the beginning, showing deadline dates, again, time sensitive because of the election coming up in the other school districts that are going to be passing bonds. And once they pass the bonds, general contractors bidding and getting tied up. And of course, the market will only sustain so much. Prices will start going up. So again, this is the schematic page for us for Tom to do that to us and come back to us. By no way does it obligate us to do every portion of it when he brings it back to us. But it does allow us to move forward to meet that timeline. I went to school here. I was a lot like these little primary kids that were struggling and failing. But I kept at it and I eventually caught up. A lot of good memories of my teachers that helped me get there. And then getting into high school and doing the high school thing with sports and being a Panther out there just like our high schoolers are representing us and playing with pride. Love the school district and know this project is really will take us over the top and allow us to compete with some of the other school districts. We are quite a ways behind our surrounding school district when it comes to the sports complex part of it. And when we brought Ms. Cook here a couple of years ago and started talking about our vision, one of them was not only the academic side, it was the facility side and competing with all the new industry that was coming, because we knew that we would be competing for families going to school districts, and they're going to look not only at academics, but they're going to look at facilities. So this is that added part. We've addressed the academic side with the pathways that we have in place now. We're moving forward with that, despite the COVID hiccup. This will take us to a new level from a facility standpoint. I'm going to sit here and tell you that I strongly recommend that we go for the whole package. I think we have the funding. I think we're being financially responsible. When we look at taxpayer money, and we look at fund balance, there's $6 million sitting there. $3 million of it, like Ms. Cook said, is obligated for our operating costs should we sustain another catastrophic loss for us to operate for 3 months. We have enough there to pay our deductible. But it's very important that we understand that if we obligate this and we move forward, as that FEMA money's coming in, it's not going to be one wash of money coming in and saying, hey, here's the whole $2 million. It's going to be coming in increments. So we're going to have to go into fund balance to pay for some of the projects and then just reimburse the money as FEMA's coming in here. With $6 million being there and the project being 3.7, there'll be a small portion that have to come out of fund balance, or we can not do the whole project. Todd brings it back to us. Todd, I have one question, and we talked about this briefly, and it's not an addendum. Is it alternate?
Alternates.
No, alternates. Is it wise to break out alternates?
I think
Because if, in my mind thought, as I'm thinking this through, if we go out with just one, if the board chooses to one big bid, and it's high, and we decide to reject it or not go with any of them, we have to go back through the whole process again. But if we broke it up in alternate pieces, have the main menu with a few alternates, then we could choose to not take the alternates and only do the main piece.
that's right.
Is that how some school districts do it?
Yeah, almost all of them do that. You may have 6 to 10 alternates, and then there are menu items if you want this, you can afford this, and this, or you can evaluate engineer. It just gives you different options when you go to the contractor, because some things can surprise you. They're not very expensive based on what they're already doing.
So for example, I mean, we could go out to bid on the main menu and put an alternate that covered the canopies over the baseball batting cages.
Right.
Or an alternate for the main fencing around the whole facility.
Right.
They have 2 different alternates in that aspect. So that may be something that we want to look at as we go further on down the road with this. A lot of information. Anybody have any questions?
I think our time is now.
And I think concur with you, so if $50 million now and get something that really looks good and nice, instead of trying to do it later piecemeal, a little bit at a time, you're gonna end up spending more money in the long run, and it's not gonna look as well because you're not doing it all at the same time. So you wait 2 or 3 years to do another little part, you're not gonna get the same contractor, the same materials, so it's gonna look different, so.
Mr. Clement knows and Mr. Redmond knows, I've been pushing for this for a very, very long time. I've come to many board members and say, we need many improvements here. And improvements, I think it's time we start catching up with everybody. I said it before, we always fall behind on everybody else. It's time that we start trying to get to the other schools levels.
Yes, sir. Mr. Alvarado?
Did we go all in?
Okay.
Time to time?
Everyone has spoken. Do I have a motion to approve the schematic design of the sports complex improvements? Option A, as discussed. And for the direct administration to move into the construction document phase.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Rector. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Alvarado. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. I'm still tongue-tied.
That's something I've been wanting to see for the last 29 years.
You're here.
You made it.
I want to actually see it.
I want to see it.
I want to see it, yeah.
We all agree.
It's been a long time for me.
The next item is agenda item number 9. Discussion topics for future meetings. Ms. Cook and I visited today, was it last week, the week before, we went to the training for Aransas. And part of that Senate bill, 1566 is for a goal-setting session. And I've asked her to look into getting us a consultant to come in and lead us through that process of setting those goals. There's one from TASB, Orrin Moore, that she's reached out to. A lot of these trainings are happening virtually because of COVID. He's willing to do one on a virtual session with us. We need to move forward because I believe the deadline to have that completed is coming.
I meant to look that up for this evening. I apologize, I did not.
I believe they told us that ours, it was at the end of December, January.
Thinking it was the.
In mine in February.
I'm talking about the state's requiring us as a body to have our goals set. I think it's by the beginning of the year. So Ms. Cook is going to be reaching out to us once we can get some dates from him for us to come in as a team and set those goals. So I just want to make sure you guys are checking your emails and responding back to her to make sure we can set up some good dates for us.
Would that help? Do we have like a 3-hour requirement for board meeting together for team building?
Team building.
Would that cover that as well?
And then also along those lines, the administration sent out an email. TASB normally has their convention in October. With us not going, you're able to link in at any of the workshops that are available to get you credit hours. You can do it virtually. That way everybody can get their training hours that they need to. It's only going to be open for the month of October. So if you follow the link, all the class courses will be viewable. Just click on them, watch the video, and I'm sure they'll give you a code or you'll do something to get credit for it. But
They have a code,
yeah, today's the 12th already, so we have 2 weeks to do it in your spare time when you're retired, sitting at home and enjoying life.
And also for info, I think the Winter Governors Conference, they're planning to have it live in March. I think things are still going good in Galveston again, so, that's something to kind of think about. Looking at your calendar, and I think it's February, March, something like that, right toward that end period.
February.
Yeah, they're having that in Galveston, so that's something to look at as well.
Does anybody have anything else for future topics?
I would like to add, in the past, we've had like a who's who in Aransas Past ISD. We had that a number of years back, and we did away with it. And I'd like to try to reinstitute that. We have the Hall of Fame board at the high school right now. But in the past 6 or 7 years, we've not done anything with that. it stopped a number of years ago when we lost our public relations person. And it's, you know, it's just, to me, it's good PR, and it's good for our kids to look at, to see some of the successful people that are out in the world that graduate from Aransas Pass High School. And it's not something we have to do, you know, every year, but it's something that if somebody does something that makes a big accomplishment and that has graduated from Aransas Pass, that we can honor them that way and put them on the board so the kids have that to view when they're to high school. So it gives them something that, you know, it's a little bit more pride they can look at as accomplishment of graduates from Aransas.
Ms. Cook, I'm going to turn that over to you and let you put that on your plate as one of your projects. I'm sure you'll appreciate that.
If you don't have enough, right?
Does the board have anything else? We don't have any reason to go into executive session. Do you need to go into executive session? Okay. The time is now 9:10. There being no other business before the board, this meeting is adjourned.